This vision that I'm talking about of a complete recovery requires one day at a time effort. Of course, we are human beings. We operate one day at a time. Whether you're a person on a path of recovery or not makes no difference. You go to bed at night, you wake up in the morning, you do it again. What do you do again? You have another chance to live, another chance to breathe deeply, another chance to eat great, nourishing foods, another chance to relate to yourself and then relate to other people in loving, kind, compassionate ways. We make mistakes, we clean up our mistakes, we move on, we learn, we grow. This is it. But not being in that frequency of addiction any longer allows the body and the mind to come back into balance. That's what this is all about. Now, when I talk to you about addiction, working on the physical body, there's a specific story that I want to tell you. When I was 10 years sober, so I was 10 years off of drugs and alcohol, I was still carrying a lot of stress in my life. I was really struggling with a lot of pain in my body, tightness and pain. Even though I was practicing physical yoga, I still had a lot of tightness and pain in my body. And I was still in my primary addiction. What was that primary addiction? I had become addicted to stress. I think it had been there most of my life, although I didn't see it or I couldn't call it out that way. After about 35 years of being a relatively stressed out human being, an interesting thing took place. I was involved in addictive behavior in the form of gambling. I went to Las Vegas for a weekend. I lost a lot of money that I couldn't afford to lose. I was really caught in the frequency of addiction. That was a term that I coined when I understood that other addictions keep coming up even after the primary addictions, I put them down. So when drugs and alcohol were gone, these other addictions and these other challenges and these other patterns kept coming and getting me. And I started to coin the term, I feel like I'm in a frequency of addiction, like literally a vibration, like like you're tuning a radio to radio addiction. I feel like my mind-body system was tuned to radio addiction, and I didn't know how to change the channel. There I was, stuck in gambling addiction at nearly 10 years sober, hurting myself, self-harming behavior. Okay. I came home from a weekend. I was unbelievably stressed and feeling amazingly low in myself. Felt a lot of shame around my behavior, a lot of guilt about losing all this money. And a couple days after I got back, my back seized up and I fell to the ground in a fetal position, screaming in pain. I was basically in pain and more or less crippled for the next year. I could stand up and I could move, but if you said, for example, hop on one leg or run across the street, like impossible. I was in pain morning, noon, and night. I woke up with it and I went to bed with it. I did what anybody would do, which was to try to find someone to help me. I went to every kind of healer you could find in Los Angeles. And that, by the way, that is every kind of healer in the world. I went to everything. I did all kinds of neuromuscular therapy, massage therapy, aromatherapy, acupuncture, chiropractic, yoga, no yoga, training, no training. I did everything I could possibly do. And it was just simply getting worse. At 35 years old, my life as I knew it was over. I finally broke down and I went to Cedars-Sinai Hospital, which is a prominent hospital in Los Angeles. I got an MRI and the surgeon and the radiologist read the MRI. It was in front of me and my new wife, my then wife, my first and only wife, Kia, who I'm still married with today. And they read the MRI and they said, how is it that you're even standing right now? You have severe degenerative disc disease. you have major herniations at L3, L4, and L4, L5, you are going to be on drugs for the rest of your life. Sometime this next year, we're going to have to operate on you. I said to them, there has to be a way out of this that's not surgery. There has to be a way that I can find to heal myself. And they said, there isn't. This is progressive. We've only ever seen it get worse. A few days after that, a friend came up to me and said, if you really want to fix your back, you need to see a man named Guru Prem. And I did not want to see Guru anybody. Not interested in gurus. Not into that kind of thing. Anybody that calls themselves Guru Prem, thank you, but no thank you. So I said, no, I'm not going to go, but thank you for the suggestion. That very same night, I went out to dinner across Los Angeles with my wife, and there was a woman at the table next to ours. She introduced herself to us. Hi, she said. I just got to Los Angeles. We said, oh, hello. What brings you here? She said, well, I hurt my back and I came to see a man named Guru Prem. So when I tell you that my life is a series of second chances, I really mean it. Well, I got the message. I called Guru Prem the next day. I said, apparently I'm supposed to come see you. And he said, well, we better get you in here then. And I went to see him the next day. That was December in 2003. I went to his office and he opened the door, and it was exactly what I had envisioned. There was a man with a long salt and pepper beard, glasses, a white turban on, and white clothing from head to toe. And I thought to myself literally, how could it have come to this? Is this man going to be my salvation? I can't believe it. And he opened the door to his office and he said, come sit down. There was only a yoga mat on the floor. It took me probably 10 seconds to even get on the ground. I was in so much pain. And I sat there kind of like awkward and, as uncomfortable as you could imagine somebody being. For the first time, I looked up and I looked at his eyes. And I saw something that I had never seen before. There in front of me was a contented human being. So much love, so much presence. I mean, he had if there was a perfect yogi's posture, he had it. And he looked at me with this big smile on his face. And in that moment, I knew I was going to be okay. I was not okay, but I had hope. It was the first time I had felt hope in many, many months. He opened his mouth and he said the following thing. I know how you're going to die. And I thought to myself, my God, Jesus, okay. You have my attention, Guru Prem. How am I going to die? And he said, well, you're going to die on an exhale. Now I started to go through all the possible death scenarios, and I concluded that he was correct. The last thing I would do, the final act, would be to exhale. And he said, that's right. And you came in here on an inhale, just like everybody else. Now here was the line he delivered. He told me that from this moment forth, the more I paid conscious attention to breath would determine the depth of my healing and the length to which I could go in this life. And my mind sprung up with all kinds of doubt. You're telling me that if I pay conscious attention to breath, whatever that means, by the way, if I do that, that's going to heal my back, heal the pain in my body, help me move forward in significant ways in my life? And he said, yes. That's exactly what I'm telling you. I said, Guru Prem, I'm in so much pain. He said, when you learn the principles of divine alignment, when you learn to lead with the heart instead of with the head, you're going to know what it is to be in a comfortable body. And you're going to enjoy yourself in that body. Well, I didn't even understand what he was talking about by this point, but I said, I'm doing whatever this man tells me to do. Whatever this strange man tells me to do, I'm going to do it. And I became a follower of the breath, of the particular approach to yoga, which I understood just simply meant bringing my body and my mind back into balance and harmony. I became a follower of these beautiful truths and philosophies, which helped me to really work out the stresses of my life in a way that no one had ever given me a road to follow, a path that I could finally get through some of this stuff. And for the next 5 years, essentially, I became a student, a real student of his teaching and his path. 90 days after I met him, 3 months, my back pain went away. We had been engaged in breath work, very deep. Very powerful movements, but very simple, very accessible movements. Profound. What I came to understand is that addiction is like a pattern, a tension pattern, written into the mind-body system. And that in order for me to heal this, I would have to break out of that pattern. Now, the doctors at Cedars-Sinai Hospital, the way they would help someone break out of that pattern was surgery, and in some cases, drugs. That doesn't make them bad people. It just means that those are the modalities, that's the framework in which they operate was about that. And thank God I got turned on to Guru Prem, who was operating in quite a different paradigm, where he could help me to unlock the healing, the natural innate healing of my own body. You must understand what I'm saying to you now. You see, the back pain was a side effect of addiction. It wasn't like back pain caused by this or that. It was lifelong stress, a neurological disorder that resulted in tension, literally physical, emotional stuckness in the body. And so since we know, and we're learning, as we go through this program together, the mind and body operate together. The spirit as well. You cannot change one, treat one without affecting the others. They operate in unison as a unified system. Guru Prem understood this. He understood the power of the breath, and he taught it to me. He taught me the unbelievable magic power of these practices. And I was able to move beyond this tension pattern, referred to as addiction, in this mind-body system, and to set myself free. He gave me a vision of recovery that was full and complete. And having had that vision and then a feeling of it, I then started to heal and become very strong from the inside out. My back pain has never returned. It's now 20 years later. Never has my back pain returned. So I was set free. This vision that I'm talking about of a complete recovery requires one day at a time effort. Of course, we are human beings. We operate one day at a time. Whether you're a person on a path of recovery or not makes no difference. You go to bed at night, you wake up in the morning, you do it again. What do you do again? You have another chance to live, another chance to breathe deeply, another chance to eat great, nourishing foods, another chance to relate to yourself and then relate to other people in loving, kind, compassionate ways. We make mistakes, we clean up our mistakes, we move on, we learn, we grow. This is it. But not being in that frequency of addiction any longer allows the body and the mind to come back into balance. That's what this is all about. So I will share with you what has been shared with me and the innovations that have happened since then. We will dig deep into the breath because that really is the thing you can turn to that will determine the length to which you can go in this life. And we'll get into some very simple movements which also help the flow of energy to help us break out of the frequency of addiction on a daily basis, help us break out of this tension pattern and all the tension patterns of our life, and we can finally enter that asana, the comfortable seat, in all the postures of our life. So remember, I learned these things after 10 years of not using drugs or alcohol. I had been sober all that time. And I guess the way I look at it now is to say that I needed those 10 years to get to the next place where I was desperate enough to open my heart to the next level of teachings. And when they came, it ended up being the greatest blessing of my life, without question. My spine is still the same spine it ever was. Doesn't look too pretty in pictures. But I'm in no pain. I've had no surgeries. And I don't take drugs. That's interesting. And I know that it's about this expanded perspective on addiction, seeing it as a tension pattern, seeing this frequency of addiction. And that's going to lead us into a really powerful conversation about breath and then some experiences with breath. And you can begin to get a sense of what I'm talking about here and actually feel it in your body.